Hello, and good morning from Japan. Welcome to the Good Life Meditation for the 16th day of May 2025. My name is Kurt. I'm glad you're here. All right, so this is an exercise that I do every morning a little bit after waking up to remember my life objectives and principles, those which are outlined in my book, Going Alone. Look, I've got a copy of it right here. Starting to keep it handy on my new outdoor standing desk. Isn't this nice? I got this piece of wood at the antique store about a week ago, and it's worked out really well. Just put it up here whenever in the morning. I keep it stashed away over there in the evening. You know, here in the morning, I've got my seat there with that's an old school Japanese schoolboys or school child's desk. Believe it or not, back there. And then I've got this piece of wood so I can stand and sit, and it's very sturdy. And then I've got another one over here where I can keep my keep snacks or tea in this case. I just brewed up a fresh cup of Shizuoka green tea. That's the good stuff right there. I got another pot, my Shude pot waiting to go. All right, so first off, I want to say welcome to new subscribers to the channel. There's more and more of you every day. It's great to have you here. I want to let you know that this video, you're welcome to join me on this video. This is a live video that I do at roughly 6 a.m. Japan time every morning. We have no daylight savings time, so it doesn't fluctuate here, but it may fluctuate wherever you are. Although this is Japan, and this is a Japan channel, this is not a Japan video necessarily. In this video, I talk about my own life and my efforts to live well and to abide the principles and objectives in my writing. So I spent a lifetime basically trying to figure out how to organize the project of my life in such a way that I could live effectively and make, as Thoreau said in Walden, he said, "I do not wish to come to the end of my life only to discover that I had not lived well at all." When I was 16 years old and I read those words, I thought, wow, well, how am I organizing my life? What am I going to do to make sure that when I come to the end of my life that I don't discover that I had not lived well? Well, I set out to, in modeling Thoreau's example. Thoreau basically went away to Walden Pond for 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days to set about the project of living deliberately, as he said, as Thoreau said, to live deliberately, to front the essential facts of life, and to not discover when I come to the end of my life that I had not lived at all. There I got the whole quote out. It's amazing how those quotes kind of resurrect themselves after 4 or 5 decades, in this case 4.5 decades of time. So I spent a whole lifetime struggling to do that and banging my head against the wall in many cases and falling flat on my face. And in the end, I produced this book, Going Alone, which is kind of a misleading title. It says Going Alone, but Going Alone is the first half of the book. It's the coming back part. It's the coming home to family and responsibility, commitment, worthwhile commitment, worthwhile obligation, worthwhile utilizations of time that is the punchline to my story. A lot of people that when they first see the title, they think, well, this is about just hiking in the desert alone. Well, it is that. There's a lot of that in there, but that's not the point of the book. There's a chapter in the book called The Good Life, and The Good Life is the codification of the creed that I developed in the course of my life. That is the template that I use and model my living after. I call it the good life, not because I necessarily would be so bold as to say that I figured out a good formula, but I'm doing this as a nod and a tip of the hat to the Stoics, who called the good life a life that was lived in reasonable and reasoned pursuit of virtue. So that's why it's named thus. So anyway, this video that I do each and every day at this time of the day is my moment of reflection against the last 24 hours to see how did I do in the last day in living up to my own principles, or more accurately said, because there's objectives and principles. The objectives are the things I'm striving for. The principles are the tools that I use to get there. So how did I do in the last 24 hours doing that? Did I stumble? as I always do, I often do. And when I did stumble, how did I fare? Did I recover well? Did I regain my footing? Was I able to make good utilization of the fact that I had stumbled and turn that into something positive? Or did I learn a lesson in the process? Or in the other case, did I have a good instance where I really used my principles well to good and worthwhile and virtuous ends? And I keep a notebook throughout the day. I don't write very many notes in it, but this is what I'm going to be doing in the remainder of this video. I'll be going through my notes to see how I did. Now, there's 3 things I'm going to do. But before I do that, I'll have a little preamble. 3 things as if this isn't enough of a preamble. But there's a lot of new subscribers to the channel, so I think it's important that I kind of give like a little bio sometimes and maybe a little explanation about what this video is. But there's 3 things I'm going to do in the course of this video, the reason I'd start this video every day. First, I'm going to review the last 24 hours. Second, I'm going to go over the objectives of my creed and one of the principles. Sometimes I forget to do the principle. That's why I've got the book handy. And the third thing I'm going to do is tell you what my plan for the day is. What is it that I'm going to do today that if I can complete that thing, will have made this day a good use of my time. So, but before that, I promised a preamble. The preamble is this. 1, to welcome new subscribers. Thanks, I'm glad you're here. 2, I'm going to talk about things most likely that might make some people uncomfortable. Namely, I'll probably talk about death, my own death, which I reflect on each and every day. It's the most important part of this exercise, is to make sure that I'm ready to die. That seems to make some people uncomfortable. I mean, so much so that I get email and comments frequently, almost weekly, if not daily, about people who are unsettled by my proactive approach to the topic of my own death. But I'm going to do it, so I just give you a warning. I also talk about other things that make people uncomfortable too, but we'll see if we talk about any of those. You've been warned. 3, I'm going to talk about, the third thing I want to do is I want to thank you. Those that watch the video, those who are my YouTube members and my Patreon supporters, you provide the fuel for the adventures that I have that I supplement this activity of life beyond just my mere living here with my wife in this little house and community, getting out and doing things. Let's get started. So first, the last 24 hours. So I usually make note of the stumbling points, and I've told you recently, like literally in the last 2 weeks, I seem to have run out of stumbling points, and that's not. I had to think about why is that, because usually I would come to this exercise and I would have at least 2 or 3 things and say, well, I did this and I fell flat on my face, or I did this and wow, that didn't go so well. And then I would go over the day and see what could I have done better? What principles could I have enlisted to that activity to have done better? And I seem to have run out of that stuff. Now, I had to think about it for a little bit. Why has my life suddenly become so easy? And it's not because of retirement, because I've been retired for a little more than 5 months, and it's been a rough 5 months, right? If you follow these videos, I am not one who's gone easily into the retired paradigm. Although I seem to be coming out the other side now. What's changed is and this is a dangerous thing. What's changed is I'm done with the transition, literally. The 2-year project of getting my wife and daughter and I and the 2 dogs from our safe and settled, if not chaotic and trying and very difficult, stressful life that we had in America. A very gainful life, but a very difficult life that we lived there for more than 10 years, which was a project in itself, which kept me very busy and gave me lots of opportunity to fall flat on my face every day. But now that I'm not in that, I then substituted that with 2-year and then a 1-year deliberate effort to get us from America to Japan, to find a home to buy this place, to buy it, to do the remodeling that we wanted to do, to buy it, to furnish it, because we came over with just 2 suitcases each, to furnish it, and then get settled into our community and routine. And guess what? That all finished about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And now all of a sudden, I've got no more things to write about. And it's really clear. The reason is that I'm not getting up and I'm not going to work. I'm not I'm I'm not commuting. I'm not dealing with complicated people at work or challenges. I'm doing whatever the hell I want to do all day long. I go out into the garden. You meet when I go out and have breakfast or lunch or dinner or all three. I hang out. I mean, it sounds idyllic, doesn't it? I mean, this is what retired life, hashtag retirement, should be. This is the model. This is the image of it all. And I'm going to tell you that there is really, really a good part of that. I mean, it's starting to really. I remember before I retired, I would have people that had retired before me. They would say, "You can't get here soon enough, Kurt. You can't get here." They would always say the same thing. They would say, "I wish I'd done it sooner," right? A lot of them would wait until they're like 65 to retire when they could have retired at 60. And they're like, "Damn it, I wish I'd retired at 60. I cheated myself out of 5 really good years when I still had more of my good health," right? Like, I heard that all the time. Now I'm starting to feel it, but that's not what I'm interested in. This video isn't about self-congratulations for having made it to a retired state. This video is about finding where I'm having trouble or finding where I'm doing well, and then trying to figure out how I could do better with the trouble spot, and then try to identify why I'm doing well in some other areas so that I can write those things down, so that I can do less of the stuff that's causing me to stumble and more, or not do less of it, but do it better so that I stumble less. I can still do those things, but stumble less. For example, during my work years, how I could continue to work because I didn't have a choice, but not work with as much stress or pain or suffering or failure. And when I'm doing well, how can I do more of that? Well, I don't have a lot of stuff anymore because I'm just simply not doing those things anymore. I'm not, it's like saying you're not getting your nose bloodied as a boxer, and you realize, well, it's because I'm not getting in the ring. Yeah, no one's punching me in the face anymore. So, so it's no surprise. Now, why do I say that that's a dangerous thing? Because it's dangerous, because it means I'm no longer in the fray, right? And if I'm no longer getting in the ring and box anymore, that means I'm no longer staying nimble, or as Muhammad Ali would say, right, being able to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee, because there's no one to challenge, or no circumstance to challenge or keep me nimble and strong and in good form. So that's a cautionary observation, right? I mean, if I keep at this nice life that I've found myself in, if I keep at this, I see this as it's like it could be, it has the danger of being the frog that's in the pot of water that's slowly getting hotter and hotter on the stove, right? I mean, it slowly boils without realizing it's boiled itself. This is a dangerous place, because I'm not one to sit on. I've never been one to rest and relax. I mean, I do like a good sit with my wife to watch a show together, but I'm not one to live my life that way. I don't want to live my life watching reruns. I don't want to live my life sitting down. That's why I have a standing desk, right? So I'll deal with that. That's something to be dealt with in the weeks and months ahead. I've got some time. I'm aware of it. I know the danger if I do sound a little self-congratulatory and spotting it. But that's what I'm all about. I mean, I'm all about trying to see where the difficult patches are and prepare. So I don't have a note here. All that was by way of saying I don't have a note here to say that there was anything that challenged me necessarily. But the only note that I have from yesterday is that it says routine settling. This routine that Yumiko and I are developing into is really settling in, really nice. That's all I'm going to go on. I know I'm going on and on about how life is getting better, and if it's any consolation to those who are younger, I mean, forming a project of your middle years that has the aim and the ambition of being able to be at peace at the cusp of old age. And then when you realize the fruits of that, when you get to that cusp of old age, that's nothing more than a well-planned life, right? And I would encourage those that are still in midlife to consider 20 years, 30 years hence, right? Where do you want to be? What do you want to do? This life that we found ourselves in now was a deliberate effort, waiting for that to happen. Now I'm speaking obvious things, right? I don't need to be doing that. This is not about me dispensing experience. This is about me talking about where I'm trying to improve, right? Okay, so apologize if I was getting on a soapbox there for a second. Okay, but if you forgive me, I get on a soapbox once in a while with that particular topic because no one ever really warned me, and I wish someone had, because I didn't prepare as well as I could have, and I would have listened. You know, if anybody older than me when I was 40 had really sat down with me and said, Kurt, you know, what are you really doing in earnest to prepare for the future? I would have seriously listened. Nobody ever did, you know, and I'm not complaining. I'm just, I feel like if I have an opportunity to make a video, to turn on a camera, and anyone chooses to watch, and I have a chance to point that out, then it's probably a good thing. So I guess I did by writing my other book, Retiring in Japan, which it's not a self-help guide. It's not. I don't teach you how to get to a state of retirement. I just go through the process that we went through to get here and settled in Japan. But anyway, you get the point. So as for the creed, now let's talk about the 8 objectives. This is where I'm aligning my compass. I'm calibrating myself for the day. In Going Alone, I have my Good Life Creed, and there are 8 objectives. The objectives are as follows, and they are ordered deliberately in a particular order by importance. Okay, now first and foremost, I told you I'd talk about death. My first and main objective in life is to be always ready to die. That is really a very simple and straightforward thing. All that means is that I need to have 3 things to say yes to. The first is, are my affairs in order? And I ask myself every morning, are my affairs in order? Well, let's see. I have everything set up. All the bank accounts are clear. I have in both my name and Yumiko's name. I have my pension set up so that Yumiko is my beneficiary, so she gets 100% of my pension benefits until she dies. We have all of my main concern at this point in life for being affairs in order is to make sure that my wife is, because I'm most likely to die first, my wife will be cared for after I'm gone. She has copies of all the documents and all the paperwork and knows how to access it, including all the passwords to get to everything. So yeah, my affairs are definitely in order. And my second question, so yes, that's important. And boy, I can't tell you the peace of mind that comes when you can answer yes to that every day. And some of you have written to me and say, well, why do you keep asking yourself this question every day, Kurt, if the answer is always yes? Well, because I want to be right on top of it if the answer is suddenly no to any of these. And by taking just a few minutes every day to reflect on this helps me to make sure that I'm okay. Like yesterday, I was out with my wife yesterday, and just we were having breakfast together. And just the peace of mind that comes of knowing, looking across the table as we were having our breakfast and she was sipping her coffee, the peace of mind that comes of knowing that if I had a heart attack and keel over just as my dad did in a public setting, at that moment, that she's good for the rest of her life. It just sweeps away so much anxiety that, okay, it's anxiety that really begins to appear at this stage of life if you don't have your house in order. The second part of the question is, are my relationships sound? Is there anybody that I have sour words with that I probably should reach out to fix things with? Well, this doesn't mean that there are other people that I have bad relationships with, because that's a different thing. It means, is there anything that I can resolve? Like I said a stupid thing to somebody and I really should reach out to them and either apologize or try to make amends in some way. Is there anybody like that? And there isn't. I do have difficult relationships, namely my mother, right? If you follow these videos, my mother and I are fraught, but there's nothing I can do about that, right? So I except continue to open extend my arm to my mother and say, Mom, I'm here if you need me, and she will. She's 90, so she's going to need me soon. And to that end, to have a contingency plan for that, right? So you've heard me say this before. If my mom needs me, I'll get on a plane and go back to America and take care of her until she's either settled and no longer needs me or is gone. And I've worked all that out with Yumiko as well, and my brother. I have no sour. I have no relationships that need attention at this point. The third question, and this is the last one that I have to ask to answer the question, am I ready to die? The third question is my life's work complete? Which, if you're new to this process, could be a ginormous question, because maybe you haven't defined what your life's work is. again, I'm sorry if I'm pointing the questioning at you. I don't mean to do that. Usually this is a reflective thing. So I'll turn it back to myself. So I have to ask myself, what has been, because my life's mostly over, what has been my life's work? Well, I know very clearly what that was. I told you earlier when I started the video, the first part of my life's work was to figure out what my values were, codify that, and then live in accordance with that. The second part of my life's work was to be a good husband and father, and to raise my daughter, particularly my daughter, particularly to be a good father. Okay, that's more important to me than being a good. How does that come out? How do I say that without it coming out strange? In the calculus of things, my daughter's well-being is more important than my relationship to my wife. Does that sit any better? What I mean by that is, and my wife will do the same thing, we would both set ourselves and our relationship behind in the back seat to ensure the well-being of our daughter in whatever way that might manifest. So that's why I say that my life's projects were two: the raising of my daughter, successful raising of my daughter, to which my marriage was a function and a facilitation of that end. Okay, this boils down to hashtag biology. In my book, when you hear me say hashtag something, I'm referring to one of the principles. Hashtag biology is the principle of biology, which isn't the biological science. It's simply the observation that biology provides mandates for us. What nature wants out of us is to successfully get our genes into the next generation so that we can then die and get out of the way. And the template that we have of our biological function will survive to another generation. To that end, for both my wife and I, the best and most important project of our lives is to get our daughter to maturity and have in a good, safe, and sound way. We will even sacrifice our relationship and our marriage. That sounds more extreme than it is. To do that. So my two projects, swinging back real quick, my two projects in life were to come up with a set of values and live in according to them, and then to be a good husband and father so that I could make sure that my daughter was going to be able to stand on her own 2 feet after Emiko and I are gone. Yeah, that's a better way to say it. The other ways kind of drifted into sounding like I was indifferent to my marriage, which I certainly am not. So the question then is, have I completed that task? Is my life's work complete? Well, my daughter's 24 years old, living on her own, doing well, and seems to have her head on her shoulders, and a good set of values. And so yeah, she's raised. And number two, my values have indeed been thought out. It took me 35, 40 years to do it, from starting that project at age 16, and codified in not only Going Alone, but in most of my other books and writings. So yeah, my life's work is not only in good state, it's complete. So my relationships are sound, my life's work is complete, and my affairs are in order. I am indeed prepared to die, should today be the last day of my life. And boy, I can't tell you how good that feels to answer that in the affirmative and realize, yeah, I can start this day. The sun's just starting. I'm just getting started, but I'm already done. Okay, now the last thing I'm going to do is cover the next 24 hours. What am I going to do today? Well, now that I'm free, I give myself no more than one object thing that I want to do every single day. And it's funny how that works out. When I was a project manager just as a year ago, or recently a year ago, in the thick of it, I ran at least 3 projects at once, and managed 5 to 7 or 8, sometimes 8 meetings that I led and managed every single day. I was a very busy multitasking person. Now I boiled it down to one thing, just one thing that I'm going to do today. And that one thing is, and how did I do yesterday, my one thing? Well, let's review that. Yesterday's one thing was I was going to ship that package You know, I started my old antique store, right? The old Tokaido, which I'm now calling the softypapa store. And it's on my YouTube channel. Just go to the YouTube homepage. You can go to the store tab, and you can see I've probably got 20 plus really cool antique items there now, plus all of my books, or most of my books. And then also, you can see I'll hang a couple of items at the bottom of this. Maybe, no, I can't do this on a live. You can't hang, I don't think you can hang for sale items on that. But on all of my videos, you'll see them for sale. And they're starting to sell. Wow, what do you know? So yesterday, I had to do a shipment, and I had done a couple of shipments before, but Yumiko and I had always gone to the main post office as the Minami, the South Post Office here in Shizuoka, because we had other business there. But this was the first time that I had to do it, that I could do it by myself and at our local post office. And I went in with a package in hand, and it was the most incredible experience, because the last time I'd done that was 17 years ago when my business closed. Because I lost my business during the 2008 financial crisis. And I lost everything. All my money, lost everything, except my retirement funds. Savings, that I kept, thank goodness. Anyway, and I went in and I walked through the door, and there, sitting at the desk, was the same woman that had helped me all those years ago. Now she's middle-aged. She was a 20-something then. Now she's probably in her early 40s. And I walked right up, there's no one else in the line. I walked right up to the counter, and she looked at me, and in Japanese, she said, Doug, she said, "Good afternoon, Kurt. Where's your package going today?" Like we hadn't missed a beat in 17 years. Now, she knew I was back, because I had gone in to mail a letter with Yumiko, and we had caught up then, and we'd said hi. So she was kind of expecting that I was going to show up again. And we just did our whole routine, the whole rigmarole we'd always done, and I shipped the package, and off we went. And it really dug into me about how Japan, really loves routine and practice and whatever works, and the human connections and all that stuff. And we didn't miss a beat. Anyway, so that was my one goal for yesterday. I did it. Success. Ka-ching. Made a little money. Off to the races. All right, so what's today's goal? Well, for today, I have one goal. Yumiko and I, there goes my clock. I've got this clock that I bought at the antique store that doesn't keep time, and it goes off it chimes at weird times of the day, all day long. I love it. It's a good and fitting timepiece for a retired man. Yumiko and I, when we hear it going through the house, we say, it's time for something. So what I'm going to do today, well, we went to the garden center yesterday, and we bought some eggplants, and we bought some bell peppers. And I'm going to plant those. I've got a garden row that I've got all situated. I got some fertilizer. I'm going to turn the soil, get it all situated, and then plant those. And that's my one goal for today. And while I'm in the process, I set up some rocks out there. See, I'm starting to get fit again. Remember when I lived out in the desert and I would do that 5-mile hike every day through the desert? And I would stop, I'd position those big heavy rocks at stations. I created a gym in the desert, and I would lift those big heavy rocks out there in the desert, all, wearing just the same shorts I'm wearing now, and my boots. And well, that's what I'm going to do. I put some rocks out there. I got them down from the river, brought up this big boulder, and I can use it to do, I'm creating a gym. An open-air gym in the garden. Okay, so that's it for today. I'm gonna do that. Let's see if I can do that. Let's read comments. Oh, hey Sam, good morning. Morning time hangout. Yes, love waking up at 5:30 a.m. Well, good morning to you, Sam. Waking up with the sun, best way ever. It is indeed. Hey Robert, good morning to you. Robert says hi to Sam. Michael, hi Michael. Robert says hi to Michael. Robert says hi Kurt. Robert says, Kurt, it's about forming new habits. Indeed. Erica, hi Erica. Hi, Erica says hi to me and hi to all. Robert says hi to Erica. Erica says, hi, believe in yourself. Sam says, I don't live in the countryside, so hearing the nature sounds in the background is really nice. Sam, it's I saw a pheasant yesterday. I can't remember what it's called in Japanese. It's Japan's national bird. Came and roosted right there, and I saw it, and it made out this really, really beautiful call. Plus, I've seen some tanuki strolling through right over here. And yesterday I had at least 2 suzumebachi sitting here, they're buzzing through and zipping along the alcoves, and one came in the room yesterday. I didn't find it until later. It's pretty wild. Well, wildlife. Sam goes on. I can smell and feel the humidity in the air while watching this. LOL, I used to live in a place like this. Yeah, the humidity is definitely rising. And that smell of green, right? Marmite, hey Marmite, a functional parental unit would both mutually agree their children come before each other. Thank you for putting it in a way that I was struggling to find, right? Because the way I was trying to describe it, it was like I was indifferent to my marriage and my wife. But you described it perfectly well, right? Yumiko and I would sacrifice ourselves and even what we had together for the benefit of Emily. You know what I mean? And really the way that comes across in principle is putting our own interests in the back seat, at least while we were raising Emily, to make sure that we were fulfilling our duty. But I'll tell you this, now that we're empty nesters, now especially that we're retired, that is like a dividend that's like putting money in the bank that then if you live long enough, that comes back as a dividend in older age, because now that we're free, we can enjoy. And Yumiko and I have discovered it. I mean, we've been together 38 years. We had a long time, about 10 years or so before we became parents. And now we're finding that we've got the same relationship that we had then. I didn't know if that was going to happen, because sometimes you hear that a couple after the children are grown, the couple have become different people and they don't relate. That hasn't happened with us. We are the same people. We almost, except we're unburdened of the mental confusion that we had in our 20s. Plus, we're relieved of the satisfaction of having raised our daughter and completed our careers, and now we're free and we're just having fun. And it's really, really fun. I can't tell you how fun it is. And then what the other dog wants in. Hold on. Look at that. I can't tell you how much fun it is to enjoy life now that it's like the satisfaction of a job well done, right? When the job's been well done, you can really enjoy work now and then play later, right? Okay, here we go. There's more. I'm missing a lot of. Oh, there we go. Bag of walnuts. Hey, bag of walnuts. Good to see you. I love that post office story so much. What a memory that lady has. It must have felt great to have been remembered like that and greeted so warmly. Not only her, it's a small community post office, but her boss was there, still sitting in the same place, but he was in his 40s when he's the same age as me, so he's my age now. So he looks like me, kind of all wrinkly and stuff like that. And he waved at me from the back, and you're right. It was such a great feeling, and another good reason to have come back to Japan, to the same place where we grew up, where we raised our daughter, and where my wife grew up, because we're known here. We're a known commodity, and we're welcome back. Marmite says, have you done any videos on your finances, retirement costs, needed funds? I haven't. I mean, well, it depends. My retirement videos tend to focus on the process and the obstacles and how we overcame them of being a foreigner coming to retire in Japan. I'm not a financial guy, so I don't talk about dollars and cents or give advice about how to save, other than to simply say the only thing that I did maybe this is the shortest and easiest way to answer that question. My path to retirement was followed by a very simple thing that I did. When I started my first job, you talk to the HR, I've had lots of jobs. And every job I've ever had, when I get to the part of the HR person saying, and here's our 401k, or here's our IRA thing, or here's our whatever it is, I looked at them and I said, I want that thing, and I want to max it out to whatever you're offering. I want to max that out, because I knew that if I did that from the very start, then my first paycheck would have that stuff extracted, and I'd find a way to live on whatever that was, and it would be maxed out and going into it. Then the only effort I ever did was I would go into whatever. Back in the day, there was no web, right? So I'd have to do it on paper, and I would say, give me, because they would have like profiles, mutual funds, and I would say, find me the mutual fund that's the most aggressive, because this was 30 years ago, 35 years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago. I would say, I want to max it out, and I want to put it to the most aggressive growth There's a ladybug flying right there. And then I said, I said, give me the paperwork. And I had a special file that I carried with me all my life, all my jobs, and I put it in a special file, and I carried that paperwork with me. That was the smartest thing I've ever done in my life, by the way. A lot of people started these retirement plans, and then they forget about it, and then they lose track of the funds. So I kept it, but I carried those paperwork all with me all my life. And so then what happened was I did that with every job I ever had. And then what happened was when I got to 58 and I was 2 years away from 60, I hadn't been tracking this stuff. I hadn't been making any changes. I simply got out that file with all the information, and I called up all those mutual fund companies that I had, some cases I had never talked to, because I had set it up with the HR person and employer. And I remember doing this, and I got this spreadsheet one day, and I had the day off, and I called them up one after another, and it was like opening a treasure chest that you hadn't seen for 30 years, right? Because I had put the money in 30 years ago, and compound interest had done its magic for 30 years in one of the best growth economies in all in the United States stock market ever. And basically, I realized at the end of that day, I was like, oh, I'm done. I don't need to work anymore. So that's my financial advice, right? Is just max out whatever your employer offers, keep the paperwork, and never touch it until you reach my age. Okay. Yeah, so I guess I just did it. But if you have questions in particular, first, maybe I would recommend, if you have questions about the logistics of retiring in Japan as a foreigner, maybe check out my book, Retiring in Japan. It's free if you're on Patreon, and you don't have to. Patreon supporters, you don't have to give me any money. You can join my Patreon for free, and then when you join Patreon, you get free access to PDFs of all of my books, or you can buy it on Amazon. But if you have questions about the nuts and bolts of finances, I typically don't touch that stuff because I don't know anything about it, other than what I just told you. Okay, you had another part of your question there, Marmite. It was retirement costs, needed funds. That I'm happy to talk about. I've created a spreadsheet. I think it's in my book. I know I've shared it with many people. Yumiko and I before we came over here, we broke down what the costs are. And I used Google and then AI to figure out all that stuff, and it was surprisingly quite accurate to figure out what all of our living expenses were here, and then to figure out what my income for retirement would be, and to see if it all matches. Japan is a really, really cheap place to live. It's like, wow. Okay. It's like, wow, if you are thoughtful and measured and careful about it. Okay, let's see. Good morning, Heather. Hey, Heather, how you doing, Heather? Time for all the hobbies. Yeah, lots of time for the hobbies. But I will just add, Heather and others might know this. My experience has been Heathers will not sustain us in retirement, because Heathers, unless you're the type of person that can be sustained with just being distracted. But for someone like me, who I need more than distraction, I need to feel like I'm contributing somehow, that I'm making the world a better place in the process. Hobbies don't do it. It's got to be something more substantial than that. Making this video does it for me. But maybe I'm stating the obvious. Marmite says, I hope you have a wonderful sunny day in the garden. I wish I could pop over and help. Thank you. I don't know that the sun's going to come out too much. It looks a little overcast. It's supposed to rain tomorrow, which would be perfect timing. Since I started the garden here, which was like 3 weeks ago, I haven't had to water it. But the first time when I planted the tomatoes, I went down to the river, scooped a bunch of water. I haven't watered them since. Every time that they need water, it just rains. So it's supposed to rain tomorrow, and again, perfect timing. Oh, hi, Sam says, Kurt, I always kind of watched your videos very passively, as just like this dude is doing what he does. But as I get older, what you say about dying and life purpose really resonate with me more now. I found that same thing to be true myself, Sam, is that when I was in my 20s and 30s, I wouldn't have called it a purpose. I would have called it, fulfillment of some sort, or feeling like I was making good use of time. But it has become that, and especially as the specter of death starts to become a little more apparent, right? It feels more like purpose and maybe a legacy. Even if that legacy is an anonymous legacy, just simply the legacy of the good actions that we do. Like Sam, I know you probably, I know about you more than a lot of the people that are commenting, because you're kind of, you're a public figure. And I know Sam, that you make that effort so that your footprint in life is one where you're leaving, you're not trampling things down, you're stepping around the flowers that you find on the path to make sure that, and you're propping up things along the way, you're helping people out along the way. So you are, I've seen you as doing that all along. I think you are a man of virtue, Sam. And so it doesn't surprise me to hear that you are reflecting more and more on the definition of what that purpose is. Maybe the consideration of objectively identifying what would constitute the completion of some purpose in your life. And maybe that purpose is the mere act of living. I know that you offer a lot to the people that watch your videos, Sam. A lot of people, a lot of young men in particular out there, see you as as a role model, Dad. People should strive to have the kind of inner peace you show in your videos every day. Well, thank you. It's not all that. It's not all inner peace. I do struggle like anybody else. I have my anxiety and my doubts, as my wife very well knows. But I do make a strong effort to, kind of like you do, Sam, to live earnestly and in the direction of virtue. Robert says hello to Marmite and Heather and Heather. Heather says hi to Robert. Good morning, afternoon to you. I think it's afternoon where Robert is. He's in Canada. Thank you. And Marmite says, Heather says, and your adventures. How's the tomatoes doing? The tomatoes are doing good. They're up to the third rung, starting to grab onto things. The middle, it's like a race. We have the yellow, the red, and the orange tomatoes, and the middle one seems to be winning. I think it gets more sun. Oh, there goes something big. And Sam says, thanks, Kurt. It means a lot to hear that from you. Well, thank you. I'm glad to hear it. And I mean it most sincerely. I am all their hot dads. Hot dads unite. Heather says, my roses have been exploding in bloom. I have a ton of neighbors who stroll by, who are retired, and they love checking out the variety of roses I've even been giving out roses too. That's very nice, Heather. That sounds really nice. Do you know basil comes in purple? I didn't know basil comes in purple. I'll have to check that out. All right, I've reached the end of the comments. Wow, I've been on this for 42 minutes. This was a long one. Okay, everybody, the goal for me today is to plant some peppers and some eggplant. I hope that you are able to achieve whatever goals you set for yourselves, and that if you want to be safe but not too safe, then I encourage it. But of course, it's up to you to be as safe as you want to be. Wish you all the best. Take care for now, everybody. Thanks, Heather. Bye-bye.